We back, the Brothers from Inglewood podcast once again is coming to you live and direct. We are excited about being in the studio once again. I'm Hoopie, this is Charley Mack, my co-host. We're getting ready to get this thing going, introduce a wonderful topic that we'll discuss. I think you'll appreciate it and be excited about it. Thanks to the Coalesce Group for all of the different things that you're doing on the educational level. Thank you for providing for our young people and giving them options to pursue their dreams and goals. Thank you to Fruit Off the Vine Clothing Apparel for allowing us to attach ourselves to your brand, how you are dressing women and young girls, helping them with their self-esteem and bringing forth the consciousness of self. We just want to say thank you so much for allowing us to be a part of your process. Again, good to be back in the studio. Before I introduce the topic, I'm going to throw it to Charley Mack and let him holler at you.
Hey guys, we're in the building once again. That's the pilot, I'm the co-pilot. You guys are the passengers. But before we get this plane pushing, we don't own the rights to this music, you dig? But we're going to let it get us in the groove. Ain't that right, Cam?
Yes, sir.
And
yes, sir.
Before you guys put those seatbelts on, I just want you guys to put some prayers up in the air. We just got some pretty bad news today. A friend of ours who was on our podcast, she lost her son today, Tracy. So you guys pray for her family, and you guys pray for strength and pray for her in these tumultuous times. I know she's probably really going through it. But anyway, we're going to try to make this thing good for you guys. Put them seatbelts on. We're going to get this thing pushing.
Well said, bro. Well said. Our sentiments are with that family.
Yes,
and,
sir. Yes, sir.
The young lady that, so graciously came in to share with us. It's just a tough thing for anyone to lose a loved one, especially a parent to lose a child.
Yes.
Hopefully we'll be able to gain some traction when we introduce this topic because everybody can relate to it. And we're going to talk about musical genres and the eras that really have stayed with us over the years.
Yes, sir.
I know if I had to pick a particular genre and era of music, it just wouldn't be hard to go with the one that we grew up under.
Right.
Everybody's different because we were fortunate. We were able to listen to all types of music from different generations. And before I get into it, I just want to say thank you for sharing with us on this platform. We're going to ask that you would like, subscribe, and share the content that you'll be hearing. Call someone up, let them know, forward the link so that they will get notifications to let them know when we're on and how we're pushing the content. We really want to flood this platform, so that people will feel that this is a positive outlet, and so we're just thankful to be able to come to you consistently like we have. So, you can give it a shot, or I can start off with it. What music do you prefer, and what era were you most comfortable with?
It's funny that we're talking about music, man, because I like to consider myself a music lover.
Okay.
And there's people out there that will tell you that they're music lovers, but they only listen to rap, or they may only listen to R&B, and they may only listen to whatever genre it may be.
Mm-hmm.
You're not a music lover if you don't like all genres of music. Okay. I like everything.
Okay.
Anybody who knows me would probably tell you that this dude, in the morning would be listening to some Frank Sinatra, and then you'll look up and he's listening to some jazz, and then some blues, and then some whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm really a music lover. So this topic for me is pretty easy to talk about,
Okay.
But probably my main genre of music and the era would probably be, for me, that puts a smile on my face, I would say the 80s. Because with the 80s music, I like to think the 80s music was friendly, and it made you laugh, and it put a little spunk in your spirit. And along with that music, I can probably say that we probably had the best movies in the 80s.
Yeah. Soundtracks.
Everything.
Yeah.
And I mean, we grew up in that Brat Pack era with the Tom Cruises and the Spacullys and the Emilio Estevez and all these guys,
Absolutely.
The Breakfast Club and all those movies. So
Absolutely.
But along with that movies, the genre of pop and R&B and even hip hop, it was the best.
Yeah.
In the 80s.
Wow.
So that's my genre, the 80s, man.
You covered quite a bit, which is going to lead us into more discussion. I don't know if you remember, and you should, you older than I am.
Homie, not that much older.
But Dad listened to everything. He listened to heavy metal, the Rolling Stones. These guys were all Caucasian bands.
Yeah.
Of course, you remember Jimi Hendrix.
Yes, sir.
Began to collaborate, and even he was a part of those groups.
Yes, sir.
And I just remember being pre-exposed to just good music. So even though we were born in the 60s, that wasn't our era. Right.
We wasn't old enough to
appreciate
the 60s music.
Right. But you're right. The 80s, I have more connection with.
Right.
But I like the 70s too, though. The Commodores, Zoom. You had the Average White Band, and you had the Das Band. So the 70s was a fun time. The 80s, I was a lot more mature, and then I can appreciate, like you said, the movies that were coming out and the soundtracks that was linked. It seemed like Quincy Jones did all the soundtracks. It was either Quincy Jones or Isaac Hayes.
Yeah.
They did a lot of the music scores.
Yeah.
But
don't forget about Curtis Mayfield.
Curtis Mayfield.
He scored Superfly.
Exactly.
He scored
all
Superfly.
of Superfly.
He scored Superfly. Right. That was his musical score, Superfly.
Right.
And yeah.
So the 80s. If I had to pick one, I would say the 80s as well. Prince too.
Well, that's when I was a Prince fan.
Prince
in
was
the 80s.
Prince was.
Yeah, he hit the scene pretty hard in the 80s, and that's when I was a Prince fan. He kind of went off.
I liked him all the way through.
I didn't.
I did. I just thought he was genius. I thought he was.
You never can take that away from him. But his music kind of changed from the 80s, and then during. His music was good in the 80s, and then he did Color Purple, and that was probably the last best album that he did, original soundtrack. He won a Grammy for best musical score. I think it was either an Oscar or a Grammy he won for Purple Rain, because it was an original score. So I think he won a Grammy and an Oscar for the best original score.
Okay.
But I'm gonna tell you something, man. The 70s for me, I like the music. But when I think about the 70s music, I get sad. Because so many things was happening in the 70s, and those songs remind me of all those bad times.
Yeah.
I remember like it was yesterday. This must have happened in 75 or 76, when we would always do our the family picnics, and we would go to the park and all this stuff. And I can remember coming home when we were listening to Zoom by the Commodores. But the bad news came when we put up in the driveway, when they came and told us that Cedric's brother had hung himself. And this was in the 70s.
Yeah.
And then, and then there's another song called Stump. And I think it's the Brothers Johnson.
Okay.
I don't know what it is about that track and about the tempo of that song.
Yeah.
It just brings me sad.
Okay.
I don't know what it is about
Nostalgia.
it. But it's just, it saddens me.
Yeah.
And a lot of the music in the 70s saddened me because, we were we were poor little kids in the 70s, and we was never destitute. We've always had food to eat, and we always had shelter. But nevertheless, we had a hard-working mom and you know, and at a lot of times she was a single mom providing for her 4 boys, which she did a fantastic job. Yeah. But a lot of that stuff from the 70s, man, it takes me back when we were down at Big Mama's house and when we were living
from place to
it just for me, man, those 70s, every time I hear those 70s music, it takes me right back to those bad times. So I don't really care for the 70s. No. The 70s made me sad.
Okay, I respect that because that brought on the nostalgia of, you know, of a reality. Because you're right, we went through some tough times. But the thing that I really began to look at was how our adolescence began to blossom in the 80s. I looked forward to like listening to Morningside's band.
Oh man, you know, they was hot.
Morningside's band was hot because that was the closest thing that we were to, you know, the black college experience.
Man,
because you know
like
the black
Grambling and all that.
Because you know Mr. Van Buren was actually from one of the black colleges.
Oh, was he?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
And that was his history because he came back to, you know, the metropolitan city of Los Angeles to teach music to these black kids from the inner city, and he had some of the greatest bands, man. So when I would watch them practice, and I would say, man, they playing real music.
Oh, I mean, they was bad.
You know,
the Morningside band was bad.
You know, they playing the Dash band.
Oh.
And, you know,
not Sun is here, Side is here.
Right. Confunction. You know, and that really helped me equate the genre as well as the era with my personal experience.
Yeah.
You know, we were going to house parties. We were, you know, going swimming together. We were hanging out in the summertime, getting the free lunches, you know, and playing basketball, playing street football. So, like you said, the 70s reminded you of a lot of the bad things. The 80s brought on a refreshing time.
Perfect.
To where we were pop locking.
It was happiness.
It was you know.
It was a thing where, even though, right around the 80s, you know, the Crips and the Bloods, they started doing their thing, but it was almost like it was separate. It never transferred over to us going to dances and, like you said, pop locking and going to the skating ring and all these things that we did in the 80s. It was like a separate thing.
Because the gangsters came to the house parties. A lot of times they broke it up. They shot it up. but I'm not going to kid you, man. I used to look forward to seeing them gangsters, you know, blood walk and crip walk. Yeah. Man, they was on a whole other... That was, you know, like when they look at WC, who does it, even though he is in our era, but that was really happening. It was a gang of those cats that could really... gangster walk.
I already know.
You know what I'm saying?
I know.
And we look forward to it because they were in their lowriders. They were in their, you know, in their mom and dad's car pumping that music. So, you know, just to kind of throw a couple of bands out there that, you know, we knew in that genre. And I would say that genre for us was R&B, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't, and then, you know, rap did start because... Remember Rapper's Delight, those guys from New York?
Yeah.
So
Sugar Hill Gang.
So we weren't as big in the early 80s on the rap other than Run DMC. Because, you know, Run DMC, they
hit mid-80s, though.
Yeah,
like
they commercialized
84, 85. You know, they were like one of the first rap bands that was on MTV.
And had
endorsements.
Adidas.
Yeah,
you know.
It was sponsored by Adidas.
Yeah,
and I think Adidas and I want to say Sprite as well. At some point, they were Sprite.
So in the 80s, you know, when you talk about the genre, I think it was top heavy with R&B.
Yeah.
You know, back then they didn't have smooth R&B.
Yeah,
it was R&B.
Yeah,
it was just R&B.
It was loaded with R&B and pop music.
Exactly.
You know, I mean the pop.
Michael Jackson.
Yeah. But R&B ruled the 80s, and probably they shared a little bit of the 90s with the hip hop.
Yeah.
Because hip hop and R&B was solidified in the mid '90s. You know, you had all these boy bands and girl bands in the '90s, but they had to share that spotlight with the hip hop guys.
Who did you listen to in the '80s? I know you loved all loved all genres of music, but in those '80s, can you remember? Because I'm gonna throw a name out there. I know you're gonna remember this, but can you remember a couple of the bands that you listened to
in the '80s?
In the '80s, that you consistently? It was like your go-to.
I almost got beat up for listening to Pony almost beat me up for listening to the Eagles. He was like, man, what are you doing, dude? You think you white? Dude, I almost lost my life listening to the Eagles. I'm telling you, one morning, because, you know, back in the day, and people would notice, you know, we would wake up in the morning, and a lot of us would go to bed to our little 1580 K-Day, the radio. We would have to wait all day around to record our favorite song on a cassette tape, because back then it wasn't you know, you can go and stream anything.
Yeah.
But look, man, I listened to the Eagles. I listened to Journey.
Journey was good.
I listened to Duran Duran.
Yeah.
I listened to Boy George.
Yeah.
That was my little go-to thing with those guys. Man, Journey was probably my all-time, to this day, it's my favorite band of all time.
You know who you turned me on to in the '80s?
Who?
Phil Collins.
Come on, man. Gotta feel it in the air tonight.
Oh man, you had that Z and you used to rock. I was like, this is hot.
Feel it.
Yeah.
Phil Collins.
Phil Collins. And from that moment on, when I went back to college,
Utah,
man, they they were slow. You know, in Utah they were slow. They didn't really listen to a lot of music. I mean, I'm talking about the Mormon faith.
Right.
They didn't really listen to a lot of secular music.
Right.
But they partied a lot on the university campuses. But it was more like they would adopt the athletes' music.
Right.
And they would play it.
Right.
But they wasn't doing a whole lot of dancing. They were doing, and I used to be like, well, what is this? Everybody standing around talking, and you're talking over the music. I'm like,
why somebody dancing? Right.
I was like, what's it? It's like, they ain't dancing.
Yeah.
This is, we socialize.
Yeah.
So when I was, introduced to Phil Collins, and I went back to school, and I, was sharing it with the dudes on my team and stuff, I was like, the player. Like, you listening to that?
Yes,
but
sir.
then we ended up swapping music, so now everybody has a variety.
Yeah.
So that also brings me to this point. You had some other bands that were Caucasian based bands that made a lot of, because we in Southern Cal.
Right.
We right off the Pacific Ocean.
Right.
We're literally 10 minutes from the beach.
Right.
So I'm listening to like you said, Duran Duran, and then Hall and Oates. Love Hall and Oates.
Daryl Hall and John Oates.
Remember I told you when I was Uber and I was pumped?
Yeah, they love it.
They
love it.
Oh, I love your music.
They love the 80s. I'm telling you, man, they love it. I got a playlist in my car.
Okay.
It says all 80s.
Yeah.
They love it.
Yeah. So the 80s was fun, and music is universal.
Right.
I think everybody that's viewing know and understand how universal music is. It makes you forget about the politics. It makes you forget about racism. It brings everybody together, at least for that moment.
Yeah.
Just like sports does.
Yeah.
Sometimes good things happen in sports, bad things happen in sports, and then what you would consider, people being different, they come together. They might just embrace you just on impulse because something good happened. Whereas outside of that field, or off that court, you guys don't even talk.
Yeah.
So I thought that's why it was really good to mention this particular topic, because it equates to things that we experience.
Yes, sir.
Now, let me ask you this. During the 80s, when you were feasting off of these different genres, was there a time and situation you can remember that one of these songs or one of these bands helped you through? Did it get you through anything?
I'm gonna tell you something. There's one particular song that that when I hear it today, it gets me through, but then it also takes me back to a tumultuous time as well. But when I think about the song, it actually gets me through because there's two. One of them is Anita Baker when she came out with her Rapture album, not the Songstress album.
The Rapture.
Because Songstress was first, but that Rapture album, it got me through.
We was at Monroe when that Songstress came
Right,
out.
right. We were a little young. We
Chapter
8.
She was
chapter
older.
8. We
Chapter
were
8 was her
yeah,
first.
we were probably like
okay.
seniors.
Yeah,
you know,
right,
11th grade.
You're
you know,
right,
when,
you're right.
with Songstress.
Right, 'cause
then she
chapter
came out
8
with Rapture, like 88, 87.
Okay, yeah.
You know, and we probably should have went and did our research on it because we probably not real accurate with the number. But I'm almost sure that Rapture album was around 87,
Let me see.
88. You know, but yeah, man, that album, it was that album makes me reflect. And Quincy Jones, when he put out that album Back on the Block, oh man,
Secret Garden.
Because I was
He had a variety of artists in there, right?
Oh, I was doing it, and man. So when I hear that Quincy Jones Back on the Block, oh man, it just takes me back, you know.
Okay.
And another thing I want to say before I lose my train of thought, I spoke about the 70s and how the music made me sad, and it just, you know, took me back to a time where it just really wasn't pleasant. But what I will say is, nobody in history wrote music like the artists in the 60s, mid 60s, and the 70s.
True.
When you go back and listen to the lyrics of that music in the late 60s and the 70s, I mean, they was talking some real stuff.
Yeah.
Have you ever listened to, and I bet you guys are going to go listen to it now when I say this. I want you guys out there to go listen to The Rain, Go Outside in the Rain by the Dramatics. Listen to what this man is saying.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know what he's saying?
Temptations.
But do you know what he's saying? I want to go outside. It may sound crazy, but I want to go outside. You know why?
Why?
Because he's a man and he's crying, and he don't want his woman to see him crying. But if he go outside in the rain gonna wash away the tears.
That's why they say that.
That's a cold lyric,
and it's also true.
Woo, that's a cold lyric, y'all.
People that are incarcerated, they do this. They cry in the shower.
I'm telling you,
they don't show their emotions.
Man, I want to go outside in the rain. Listen to what them lyrics is talking about, man. Them dudes was talking some real stuff back then, not this pop, hip hop, lollipop, sugar-free stuff they talking about now. Them dudes back then, Kenny Gamble and all his group and all that, they was doing some writing.
The Rapture, I think, was in '88.
I knew it. I knew it was like, okay.
Giving You the Best I Got.
Oh, that's the one right there.
Yeah. So I think it was a part of that album.
Yeah. Well, no. Giving You the Best I Got was a different album.
That was an album? That was '88.
Okay, well, Rapture must have been 86 then.
Okay, because the Songstress was 83.
See? It was 86.
And then
Rapture was like 86.
Rhythm of Love was 94.
Yep. Rapture was 86 then, right around 85, 86.
Chapter 8 was 79.
Exactly.
I knew we were at Monroe like 6th
grade.
That was
that's what she sang with Chapter 8.
Playing that
but the Rapture guaranteed was like 85, 86.
Okay. All right.
Because then you said the other one, Giving You the Best of God, is 88. Yeah. Rapture was like 85, 86.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you know, the crazy thing is, when we go through this progression of experiencing new music, great sounds, because music is emotional, and I'm still in the vein in which we're talking about. But there was one thing that the church really pressed on its membership was, you shouldn't do this. Legalism. You shouldn't do this. You shouldn't listen to songs. You shouldn't go to the movies, and all of these different things that were not biblical, right? It was nothing in the Bible, in the Holy Bible, that prevented you from participating in these things. But what they were afraid of was, they were afraid that people were going to get in their feelings, get emotional, and start making decisions
based off of
how they're
feeling at that particular
right?
time.
But listen to this, and I talk about this all the time with different people in ministry, right? They say, listen, bro, how you gonna have a wife or a significant other, and you want to show her and express to her, the sentiments of your heart. You want to date her. You want to go out with her, bro. You ain't slow dancing to the Clark sisters. You're not about to, dance with her to the praise break. So what they were saying was, you need something that's going to share the sentiments of your heart, but at the same time, it's an expression of your love and your concern. So you gotta go dance with her.
Yeah.
And so the '80s music really helped me in different aspects of my, I would say, sensibility to kind of reason things out. Like sometimes, I would listen to music just to get my thoughts together, or sometimes I might feel down, and then I could listen to a certain song.
Makes you feel better.
Make you feel better. And throughout the '80s, dudes was breaking up with their girlfriend, so dudes was over there in a slump, over there blue, trying to get over it.
Yeah.
And or you hear a song and it reminds you of that person, and then now you.
Oh yeah. And they had a lot of those breakup songs in the '80s, because they were making movies and they were putting those songs in soundtracks. Like Lionel Richie, 3 or 4 of his songs were in great movies that I saw. I think one of the movies was The Last American Virgin. Another movie was Endless Love, which was a fantastic movie and a fantastic soundtrack. Him and Diana Ross sang.
And Brooks, what's her name?
Brooke Shields.
Brooke Shields.
But yeah. So the thing about the '80s, man, it just was a fun time, and it was almost kind of an innocent time. And then I've always been a movie buff. Thanks to my best friend Paul and his Uncle Richard used to always take us to the movie. He would take me.
Y'all would go to Hollywood.
We went. Me and Lil Rodney and Paul have probably been to every single movie theater in Hollywood. I mean, from the Big Dome Theater to we would go to the movies every single Sunday. We saw everything, and we were kids, like ninth grade, 10th grade, or whatever. And then from that point on, I fell in love with movies, So, but yeah, and another thing about the '70s, man, we're gonna have to come back and redo this topic again and bring in some guests that's from that era.
Okay.
And I want to bring in Stan Walker because
he's
a
stylistic,
he's an oldies until he died. He probably don't even know none of the R&B singers. You ask him who
certain people are.
Johnny Gill was, he'd be like, who is that?
Yeah.
He don't mess with nothing. But I'm telling you,
that's how Magic Johnson was, man.
Was Magic like that?
Oh man, him and Larry Drew. We would be in practice, and they would be singing melodies, or one of them would start off with a song,
right.
And Magic would say, LD, they don't know nothing about that. LD, you going too far back. Yeah.
Really?
And then sometimes Jeffrey Osborne, because he was real close to me. He is real close to Magic. He's actually, they're like, each other's, they look after each other's kids.
Okay.
But they, they're grown now.
Right.
Because LD is actually, Magic is the godfather
of his kids.
Okay.
Yeah. His brother. I know Jeffrey Osborne's brother. His brother used to write music for Ray.
Right.
So Ray would pay him, $100,000 a year just to write songs, and Ray wouldn't even use some of the songs.
Okay.
But he was a co-writer.
Okay.
People don't know that. His brother looks just like him too.
Yeah, I saw his brother in the older days. He was one
of the pallbearers, and when we carried Ray, he looks just like Jeffrey, but he looks just like Jeffrey, wears glasses, but yeah.
Yeah, so I'm thinking, like, I'm not saying that Magic didn't appreciate the other song,
right.
That's what he's saying.
I'm telling you.
He talked about those guys. Blue Magic and, some of those, older, songs that was happening in the 60s.
Yeah.
Plus, he's from Michigan. So, that's Motown City, even though he's from East Lansing. So, I think when you talk about genres, people only feel comfortable
with
listening to music
that they're comfortable
that people
with,
like us write. But there were so many other great artists that didn't look like us.
No.
Like, to be honest, I like country music.
I do too.
And Nelson was my favorite.
Oh, Willie Nelson?
I even had Mom, she bought me a shirt. Because Papa used to always harass me at school. He's like, "Dude, what are you doing with a shirt with Willie Nelson?" But I liked country music. I still do. I like country music, Garth Brooks and people like that. And I listen to the lyrics.
That's why Ray liked
to the lyrics.
That's why Ray liked country music so much, because he said just what you said. It was the stories that they told and the word. You know, him and Willie Nelson was best friends.
I remember.
He used to come down to the office in his bus, and him and Ray would go smoke out.
Yeah.
And but Willie was his boy.
Willie Nelson.
They met like in the 70s. They had a hit song together.
It was my favorite, man.
Spanish something, I don't know, but it was something Spanish.
Yeah.
Spanish lullaby or something. But yeah, they made a song together, and yeah, that was his boy. But yeah, I like I said, man, you can't call yourself, and any of you people who's listening, don't call yourself a music lover if you don't appreciate all music. I mean, if you don't listen to classical, gospel, R&B, hip hop, pop, everything.
Yeah.
If you can't appreciate all that music, then you're not a music lover.
Now, the Jackson 5
Talk to me.
were so phenomenal in the 60s. They ended up breaking up, but you never could really separate. Even when you saw Michael performing, you remembered the Jackson 5, right?
Best music band ever, boy band.
Man.
The Jacksons, and then I got to give it up to them. People don't. The Jacksons first, New Edition second.
New Edition was hot.
New Edition, without a shadow of a doubt, one of the best boy bands ever. But the Jacksons was first.
You liked them more than Boys and Men?
They were just singers.
Okay.
The Jacksons performed, and
so
they made you feel it.
Yeah.
New Edition was even more performance because they all had their own little special entity. The Jacksons was because of Michael, but the brothers, Jermaine, was so cool, and the outfits, and they were just so. Yeah. They were so talented.
They was fresh.
They was fresh.
The froze.
And the music was so good because they had the front man Michael, and once Michael cut loose out there, I'm telling you, like when Johnny Gill joined the New Edition, when he sang that Boys and Men, they just gotta let him loose. They said, just let him loose, let him do his thing, because he gonna turn it out. Yeah. New Edition,
oh, man, he gave when Johnny Gill came to New Edition, he gave him the grown man. He gave him the grown.
He gave him that grown man. Yeah.
Cause he was a little older anyway than them.
Couple years.
And man, his songs was like grown man.
When Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis wrote that song for him, Boys to Men, it was a song called Boys to Men. If you go back and listen to it, it was hot. Yeah. He didn't like it. He was like, I don't like the song. But
that was hot.
But those two writers were geniuses.
Oh yeah,
they knew what this. They said, we're gonna write this song and you're gonna be the lead on this one. He didn't like the song.
Right.
Until he started singing.
That was one of the greatest songs that ever the New Edition.
He was man. He brought the grown man to New Edition.
Grown man. And a lot of people don't know this either. Louis Carr was a choreographer. Lusky.
Was he really?
Yeah, he's the one that helped them
with a lot of those
their routines because whoever they were using, they came to Soul Train, and they had admitted that they only watched Soul Train because of Lusky.
Okay, yeah.
And that's how Lusky developed his relationship with them. And then he started.
He was on the road with him, I remember.
Right. And they're still close to this day.
Yeah.
They were in his wedding and everything. But that band made us all proud because it was our age group and everything.
They was cold.
Man,
Bobby Brown,
man. Bobby Brown, man.
I'm telling you,
he was probably my fave out of the whole group.
Let me tell you something.
Bobby Brown could perform.
Let me tell you something. When he went on his own, that album, he won. I think he won. Maybe
Jimmy Jam did him too.
No,
who produced him?
Really? Serious?
L.A. Reid?
Serious.
Who?
Serious. Teddy Riley.
Produced that first album?
Okay, I'm not sure about the first album.
No, that was Jimmy Jam.
Okay, yeah, but the
first one.
The second album?
Yeah.
Yeah, Teddy Riley.
Did he?
Yeah, let me touch that. Yeah.
Oh, so the one when he sang
when he was with
Rock Me?
No, that was the first album.
Okay, because I think that was
that was hot.
Jimmy Jam and
but
Terry Lewis.
but Teddy Riley came in on when he did his second album when he was with Whitney, when he married Whitney Houston. That album didn't do good, but if you go back and listen to it, every song on that album is hot. But he didn't get the right, push for it. And then Bobby was going through his own thing, and the record company kind of like backed up from him or whatever. But that album would have been on fire. Teddy Riley was always, since we talking about music, he was so hot in the 90s and the late 80s, it was ridiculous. He produced gospel music. He produced the Winans, the Three Brothers.
Oh yeah, and he produced
Michael Jackson, the album
him and Drake,
2300 Jackson Street.
Right.
Teddy Riley.
Yeah, he was good.
He brought the new Jack.
Yeah,
that new Jack swing.
Wow.
That new Jack Sweezy.
So when you think of artists like Bobby Brown, the Jacksons, New Edition, you can't forget NWA.
Oh yeah, that's.
I know they rap.
No, that's why I told you they shared. Remember that I said hip hop and the R&B shared that genre together in terms of. They had it was R&B and it was hip hop.
Dude, NWA was amazing, dude.
Yeah.
Ice Cube, the way he was writing those lyrics, and then Ren was underrated because I don't know, maybe he was such a quiet personality, he wasn't as marketable as the rest. Because if you think about it, Ren, he only kind of talked when he was talked to. Eazy-E had an outgoing charismatic.
No, he was actually quiet though. I met Easy a few times. He was actually pretty quiet.
Yeah.
But the thing with Eric Wright was his voice was so different. His delivery was so different. When he came off, you knew it was him, and he had a different style of voice than all the other rappers, and that's why NWA was so popular in the way that they were.
And Cube had all that personality. Yeah. And his, he had a great delivery.
Yeah.
You could just listen to Cube talk, and he had a great
Cube
delivery.
really wanted to just be the writer. He didn't really, he got better as he went on with his hip hop stuff. But when he was with NWA, I wasn't really feeling him on the rapping side because I think I think Easy, he kind of held the torch for so.
He just had
his
that
own
voice.
He had that voice,
man. Cube had the delivery.
No. When he left them and did the album, the Jackin' for Beats, and then the one after that,
who produced that? DJ Pooh produced.
Okay, the one after that, it was he got about about 5 albums in a row, at least 4 albums in a row that was on fire.
When he went to mess with them boys out of New York.
LL and them?
No, he Public Enemy. Hey, when he went down there and recorded,
when he went on with the Nation, when he was starting being a Muslim.
Oh man, young Q. But it's so much that we can really touch.
Yeah. When it comes down to that,
the '80s was magnificent. The '70s put you in a different headspace.
Yeah.
I love the bands because they played real disco funk. We forgot about Parliament.
Live bands.
Parliament.
George Clinton.
They played real instruments.
Yeah. That's why you have to understand. That's why Earth, Wind, and Fire was so good.
Hot.
Them dudes played live instruments, dude.
Ohio players.
Then they had Maurice Wright, the front man. This dude was incredible.
Oh, he could sing, yeah.
But they didn't understand how good Philip Bailey was. But Maurice White was so much better, and his voice was so much different than Philip Bailey. Philip Bailey was cold, man.
Yeah, he was good.
Philip Bailey was cold. But
Commodores,
them guys,
man. I mean, Commodores was Gap Band. Hey, Charlie Wilson sounds just as good today as he did back in the 70s and 80s.
That Gap Band was
the
cold.
Gap Band was, man,
Gap
Charlie
Band was
Wilson, Uncle Charlie.
That Gap
was
Band
good.
was cold. That Gap Band was cold. Yeah, we can probably go on and on and on about. That's why I said we're gonna have to probably bring in.
We're gonna have to do.
We're gonna bring in
part 2.
Stan Walker for sure and
Yeah,
talk
you
about
gotta call it.
why his genre is so important to him and why he don't want to listen to nothing but that genre. I'm telling you, man, he won't listen to nothing but oldies. I'm telling you, if I asked him who one of the R&B singers was in the 90s or right now, he would be like, he wouldn't have a clue. If I said, I got $1 million for you, Stan, you can just tell me who. He don't have a clue, man. No clue. Wow. It's all 70s and 60s with him. That's it.
Wow. It's, it's been great. We can talk about this on and on. I know you that are viewing and listening, you're going to put some things in the comments as to groups that we didn't mention. And we will do other segments part, to this because it's noteworthy that we find out who some of these artists were. Because some of these guys were like one-hitter quitters.
Right.
But you can't take away what they've done because
right.
it was impacting to the listeners. So we want to say thanks, once again for you viewing and sharing with us. I'm gonna throw it to Charlie Mack and let him close us out.
Thank you guys for tuning in once again. Like the pilot said, you guys like, subscribe, share. Send it to somebody who you may think it may impact, it may touch them in any kind of way. Once again, guys, send out prayer out for Tracy and her family and all her loved ones for the loss that she just experienced. And the ride is over, guys. Take the seatbelts off. We done. Peace and love.
Peace. We out.